When Korean Air Flight 631 departed Seoul on October 23, 2022, no one, least of all the pilots, could have imagined just how close to catastrophe the journey would come. What was meant to be a routine flight to Cebu, Philippines, unraveled into an unprecedented chain of system failures, human decisions, and hidden mechanical flaws. Remarkably, every soul on board survived. But how? Let's count down the most crucial, shocking, and unbelievable moments of this aviation horror story that could easily have ended in disaster. A routine flight with a hidden threat. The flight began like any other, a 24-year-old Airbus A330 piloted by an experienced 52-year-old captain with over 13,000 flying hours, 9,200 on the A330, and a 37-year-old first officer departed Incheon International Airport bound for Mactan Cebu International Airport. Weather forecasts indicated some thunderstorm activity near Cebu, but nothing out of the ordinary to prevent the flight from taking off. Unbeknownst to anyone, a small hidden flaw had developed inside the aircraft's hydraulic braking system, one that had lain dormant for years and had never been recorded or diagnosed during any previous checks. This internal leak in a pressure release valve within the alternate braking system would soon prove pivotal. The invisible leak that no one saw coming. The Airbus A330 has two braking systems, normal, using the green hydraulic system, and alternate, powered by the blue system. In case one fails, the other should step in. However, an obscure flaw in a PRV inside the alternate system had caused a steady internal leak, around half a liter of hydraulic fluid per minute. Since the fluid remained inside the system by leaking back into the reservoir, it didn't trigger alarms or leave any visible trail. Over time, this leak quietly depleted pressure in the brake accumulators, which are essential for parking and emergency brakes. Since these accumulators naturally lose pressure over time when parked, the abnormally fast pressure drop went unnoticed for years. Thunderstorms and trouble on final approach. As Flight 631 neared Cebu, storms had shifted the wind direction, forcing the crew to switch runways mid-descent from 04 to 22. Thunderstorm cells complicated the approach, prompting the captain to abort the first landing attempt after losing sight of the runway due to a sudden rain shower. With ample fuel on board, thanks to smart pre-planning, the crew attempted a second approach. However, intense turbulence below 300 feet made the aircraft unstable. The captain, battling downdrafts and sudden wind shifts, pitched up and down to stabilize the descent. Unfortunately, the plane dipped below the glide path, a split second that changed everything. Just 75 feet above the ground, seconds from landing, the first officer recognized the danger and called for a go-around. The captain responded immediately, increasing thrust and pulling back on the stick. But it was too late. The aircraft briefly touched down just before the runway threshold, specifically on a 15-centimeter step created by soil erosion. This minor seeming imperfection became catastrophic. The right main landing gear slammed into the raised edge, transmitting enormous shock through the gear assembly. A chain reaction of mechanical mayhem. The landing gear's articulating structure, normally the hero of smooth touchdowns, was instead torn apart like a pretzel in a toddler's fist. The massive impact cracked its mechanical links, sending parts flying beyond their design limits like over-enthusiastic yoga students. As pieces bent, broke, and slammed into surrounding systems, they took out hydraulic lines for both the green and blue systems in one fell swoop. Basically, the brake system's version of pulling the fire alarm and cutting the power at the same time. Worse, it ripped through essential electrical cables, leaving the aircraft's brain clueless about whether the right gear was up, down, sideways, or doing a handstand. The anti-skid system offline. The aircraft was now operating on manual mode with the finesse of roller skates on an ice rink. It was as if the A330 went from smart airplane to guess and check mode in under 5 seconds. The full weight of failure hits at 1,500 feet. Warnings that had been suppressed during landing to prevent cockpit overload during critical moments began flooding the ECAM, electronic centralized aircraft monitor. Once the aircraft climbed above 1,500 feet, the crew now realized they had lost the ability to retract the landing gear, and both normal braking and anti-skid were disabled. They also received alerts for thrust reverser faults and spoiler malfunctions, critical tools for slowing the aircraft upon landing. What they didn't know was that the return line rupture caused by the landing gear damage had also created a low pressure zone, pulling leaking hydraulic fluid in the opposite direction, out of the system entirely in the final attempt, with almost no brakes. After reviewing their ever-growing list of system failures and phoning in a quick "you won't believe this" to maintenance control, the crew decided to give Cebu one more shot before heading to Davao. It was a logical move, until you remembered that their brake system was basically being drained like a leaky garden hose in slow motion. On final approach, the blue hydraulic system threw up the white flag with an ECAM warning. Fluid levels were too low, so the pump had to be turned off. That move officially retired the alternate brakes from the roster. At this point, the emergency brake system was all that stood between them and runway chaos, powered by a sad little stash of pressure in the accumulators. Unfortunately, that pressure was disappearing faster than your phone battery on 1%. The PRV was still sipping away at it like a broken soda machine with no off switch, and the plane was heading for touchdown with braking power that could best be described as hope-based. No brakes, no spoilers, no reverse. At 11:07 p.m., the Airbus A330 kissed down perfectly on runway 22. Right speed, right place. That's where the luck ran out. The crew attempted to deploy the thrust reversers. Nothing. Tried the ground spoilers, still nothing. The captain stomped the brake pedals like he was trying to stop a shopping cart from rolling into traffic. For a brief 10 seconds, the brakes did their job, but then, poof, all hydraulic pressure vanished. The pedals went soft, the brakes gave up, and suddenly they were steering 200 tons of angry French engineering with all the stopping power of a soap bar on a slip and slide. Overrun and a near-fatal crash. With nothing but faith and friction to slow them, Flight 631 blew past the end of the runway at 3 knots, or roughly way too fast. The aircraft bulldozed through the approach lighting like it was swatting flies, then tore into the localizer antenna, yeeting it clean over the fuselage like a giant metal frisbee. The ride finally ended 235 meters beyond the runway, with the A330 crumpled but still upright, like a marathon runner face-planting across the finish line. The front of the jet was toast, debris was everywhere, and several exits were blocked. It was chaos, but somehow still a miracle in motion. All survived, but the lesson was hard learned. Miraculously, as all 173 people aboard survived, only 17 sustained minor injuries. The flight attendants showed exceptional professionalism, guiding passengers through the only usable exit and even re-entering the cabin multiple times to ensure everyone got out. The aircraft was written off, but the experience led to significant safety overhauls. Korean Air enhanced pilot training, focusing on manual handling and decision-making. Airbus revised maintenance procedures and considered design updates to better detect latent PRV faults and allow thrust reversers in similar future scenarios. Investigators concluded that multiple elements led to this black swan event: the PRV flaw, mechanical damage from the early touchdown, misinterpreted system feedback, and design gaps. Yet, against astronomical odds, everyone walked away. If you found this video as jaw-dropping as we did, make sure to hit that like button to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss more incredible aviation stories like this one. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below with your favorite or most shocking moment from Flight 631. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and fly safe.